When you think about medieval power, what's the first thing that jumps into your head? Is it, a huge stone castle?
Right, the big imposing walls.
Exactly. Or maybe a grand cathedral, stained glass, the
Yeah.
works, or even knights in armor. We tend to focus on the big, obvious stuff.
A visual impact.
Yeah, the immediately impressive. But what if, sort of underneath all that, there was this hidden, really ingenious infrastructure? Something just as vital, maybe more vital for keeping everything running.
That's a great angle, because there often was.
Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. So deep dive into that often overlooked side of things, medieval resource management.
Right.
Specifically, we're looking at the fish ponds system.
Ah, yes. A fascinating topic.
And we're focusing on this amazing example, incredibly well preserved, at Lamphey Palace in Wales. Our mission, really, is to unpack how medieval folks solve these really practical problems.
Day-to-day survival problems, essentially.
Right, with engineering that was, well, sophisticated, but also beautifully simple in its way. It's about more than just food, isn't it? It touches on control, status.
Oh, absolutely. And just managing life before, supermarkets and fridges.
Exactly.
And Lamphey is just perfect for this. If you go there today, you see the palace ruins, very striking. But just off to the side, often missed by visitors.
I bet. People focus on the main buildings.
They do, but it is a working piece of medieval infrastructure, this whole chain of fish ponds, dams, channels, all purpose-built.
Not just pretty ponds, then.
Definitely not ornamental at all. This was a carefully controlled, engineered food supply, designed to keep fresh fish, good quality fish, on the bishop's tables. Not just for feasts, but like all the time.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's imagine we're actually walking the site.
Yeah.
If you come at Lamphey from the valley above the palace, the medieval setup is still surprisingly clear, isn't it?
It really is. You see these two broad upper ponds first, quite large.
Held back by this really substantial stone dam. And what struck me seeing it was the precision. Right there in the dam, you can still see the cut stone sluice.
Beautifully made.
It allowed the steward, whoever was managing it, to control the water level, just raise it or lower it. That feels like more than just practical plumbing.
Oh, it was. It was the bishop's man, literally controlling a key resource. A very visible sign of power over the landscape, over nature itself. Sophisticated stuff for the time.
And that careful approach, that precision, it carried on through the whole system, right? Below those big upper ponds, the stream actually splits.
It does, yeah. The flow gets diverted, and then it steps down through 4 smaller ponds, rectangular ones.
Almost like little jewels. They look quite neat.
They are, lined with stone, very carefully constructed, and crucially located really close to the palace buildings.
That closeness must have been important.
Absolutely key, because these were the servatoria. Think of them as, well, holding tanks for fish ready for the kitchen.
Ah, okay, so table-ready fish.
Exactly. Imagine the cook needs fish for dinner. Someone just goes out, nets a few, brings them straight in. Fresh fish, moments away. A proper medieval just-in-time system.
That's incredible. A medieval supply chain right there.
Pretty much. It shows a real understanding of logistics centuries ago.
And the water management around those little ponds, the servatoria, that's maybe even more impressive. You can still trace the narrow channels, can't you?
You can. Some even still have their flat stone caps. They weave around in between the ponds.
And these weren't just drains.
No, much cleverer than that. They were bypasses. Really ingenious.
Bypasses. Meaning
the staff could, say, refresh the water in one pond, or even drain it completely to clean it out.
without affecting the others.
Exactly, without disturbing the rest of the system, and, crucially, without losing any of those valuable fish downstream.
Wow, that's foresight. Modern systems aim for that kind of isolation.
It really is. You can almost picture someone carefully sliding a small wooden gate, diverting the water flow. Complete control.
Okay, so we have the big upper ponds, the smaller holding ponds near the palace.
What else? Well, if you follow the system further up, higher into the woods away from the palace, you find another set.
More ponds.
4 more, yes. Larger rectangles again. But these ones weren't stone-lined. They had earth banks, more like reservoirs.
Okay, different construction.
And right at the top, at the head of this upper system, a really vital bit, a silt trap. Basically to catch mud and debris before it flowed down and clogged everything up.
Makes sense. So what were these ponds for?
These were the vivaria, the breeding and rearing ponds. This is where the whole process started.
The fish nursery.
Pretty much. You'd put young fish, fry, in here, or maybe let the adult fish spawn. They'd grow on here, perhaps carp, bream, common fish like that, until they were big enough.
Big enough for the table.
Well, big enough to be moved down. Once they reached a good size, they'd be carefully netted and transferred down to those servatoria closer to the palace, ready for when the kitchen needed them.
So it's a whole cycle, a multi-stage aquaculture operation, basically.
Exactly that. Carefully managed from start to finish.
And when you step back and look at the whole thing,
What's fascinating, yeah, is the overall efficiency and the elegant simplicity, really.
simple. Sounds quite complex.
Well, complex in design maybe, but simple in operation. It was all gravity-fed. No pumps, no complicated machinery.
Okay. Gravity does the work.
Right, which made it, relatively simple to maintain, by medieval standards anyway. It was designed so a small team could manage the fish stock, check the water quality, keep things clean pretty quickly and effectively.
You can imagine the daily routine.
Yeah.
Checking levels, feeding, cleaning silt traps.
Moving fish between ponds. It wasn't about brute force. It was intelligent design. Understanding water flow, fish needs, getting a high-functioning system with minimum fuss.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, connecting it outwards. You said this split the big breeding ponds, the vivaria,
Yep.
and the small serving ponds, the servatoria. That wasn't just Lamphey's idea.
No, not at all. Far from it. This setup, this sort of dual pond system, it was actually the standard elite model.
Standard. Across Britain.
Across Britain and, yeah, much of Europe, too. It wasn't some isolated flash of brilliance at Lamphey. It was a widely adopted, proven solution.
Wow. So the big question is why? What made this specific design so common?
That's the key question, isn't it? And if you think about medieval life, especially for the elites like the bishops of St. David's, this system solved, well, three big problems all at once.
Okay, what were they?
First, the really obvious one, guaranteed fish on fast days.
Right, the church calendar, lots of days you couldn't eat meat.
Yeah.
Fridays, Lent.
Exactly, and loads of other saints' days and vigils. For a big household, feeding everyone on those days was a huge challenge. Fish ponds were the perfect answer. Reliable, fresh fish.
Okay, problem one. Religious dietary rules. What's two?
Second, it cleverly turned a local stream, which might be unpredictable, maybe dry up a bit in summer, flood in winter, into a dependable year-round protein source.
Managing natural resources.
Precisely. This was crucial before modern farming or global food shipping. You had to make the most of what was local. And third, this is about status.
Go on.
For a bishop or any lord, having these well-stocked ponds was a powerful advertisement. It showed control, good management, abundance. Imagine visitors arriving.
They see the ponds brimming with fish.
And they know the bishop can host them properly, lavishly, even during Lent. It's a tangible display of wealth and foresight. Remember, the bishops of St. David's had large traveling households. They had to entertain.
So the ponds were practical, high status, and always available. Solved a lot of problems.
Filled the role perfectly. Daily food, impressing guests, managing resources, all in one system.
What's amazing, too, is how the documents back this all up. We're not just looking at stones and ditches and guessing.
No, the historical record for Lamphey is unusually good on this. There's a Black Book of St. David's. It's a detailed survey from 1326.
1326.
And it already lists 4 fish ponds at Lamphey, explicitly.
4 ponds. So the system was already well established by then.
Absolutely. This tells us the whole waterworks setup was in full swing before Bishop Henry de Gower did his famous big rebuilding of the palace in the mid-14th century.
So the ponds came first, or at least were contemporary with the earlier phases. They weren't an add-on to his grand design.
Exactly. They were clearly a fundamental part of the estate early on. Vital infrastructure.
Is there more evidence?
There is. Fast forward a bit to the early Tudor period, around the turn of the 16th century, and inventory mentions a specific fish larder house.
A dedicated building for the fish.
Seems like it. And that fits perfectly with that small, roofless building you can still see today, right beside the ponds. It even has a chimney.
So that could have been for processing. Gutting, maybe smoking or salting.
Very likely. Right there at the source. Makes perfect sense for efficiency and keeping things fresh. And then, even later.
It kept going.
It did. We have accounts from 19th century visitors who actually recorded seeing the ponds near the palace still stocked with fish. Tench and trout, they said.
Wow, so still functional centuries later. Long after the bishops had left and the Reformation had changed everything.
It shows the system was just fundamentally useful. It endured.
And didn't it get repurposed later on, too? I read something about a pipe.
That's right. A fascinating little afterlife for the system. In 1845, centuries after its build, someone laid a pipe from one of the upper ponds.
And use the water for what?
To feed the gardens, and even a fountain.
No way.
Yes. It's not just a quirky detail, it really speaks volumes about how robust the original medieval engineering was.
Yeah.
Good siting, solid construction. It kept providing reliable water long into the modern age.
Just shows good design lasts.
It really does. So if you put all that together, the archaeology, the documents, the later use Lamphey, gives us this incredibly clear picture.
Lay it out for us.
Okay. First, masonry halls at the palace, 13th century, high-status living starts. By the 1320s, the Black Book shows the fish ponds are there, already working on that classic rearing and holding model.
Okay.
Then, later 14th century, Bishop de Gower does his big rebuild. Grand palace, formal gardens, managed parkland, and the ponds are clearly an integral part of that whole designed landscape. Not separate, but part of the statement.
Right, part of the overall managed estate.
Exactly. And even after the Reformation in the 16th century, when it stops being a bishop's palace and passes into secular hands, the water system just keeps on working, serving whoever's in charge.
Which brings us back to that point about good low-tech engineering just working. It outlasts everything else.
It really does seem to. It outlasts fashion, politics, even the original reason it was built. These ponds weren't trendy. They were just a fundamentally good solution.
So thinking about today, what's the real value of a place like Lamphey? Why should we care about these old ponds?
Well, for anyone interested in history or engineering or even just how societies work, Lamphey is invaluable because it survived so completely.
It lets us see the whole system.
Exactly. It helps us answer that question.
Hmm.
How do you get from these sort of dry Latin terms you might read in a text vivarium servatorium to understanding what they actually meant on the ground? What did those earth banks and stone channels represent in daily life?
And the answer is, go look at Lamphey.
Or learn about places like Lamphey. Yeah. You can walk it, trace the water flow, almost feel the medieval estate management. The food supply, the water engineering, the daily work, even the social signals of power. It's all there, compact and understandable.
It's like a practical lesson.
A masterclass, really, in connecting ancient knowledge to modern understanding.
And it really helps correct that common picture of the Middle Ages, doesn't it? We think castles, chapels, the big monuments.
We do, but Lamphey shows that elite sites weren't just buildings. They were complex systems.
Systems working together.
Absolutely. The bishop's status, his power, his ability to function and entertain, it relied just as much on the quiet, continuous work of these ponds and channels as it did on the Great Hall's architecture.
The ponds were as much a statement as the stonework.
Every bit is deliberate. A statement of order, resources, control, just expressed through water and earth instead of ashlar and tracery. They're two sides of the same coin.
So Lamphey's ponds really boil it down to a simple truth, in a way. That running a big medieval household, being powerful, meant solving practical problems really, really well, with intelligence and foresight. These ponds aren't just ruins, they're proof of that ingenuity. Still sitting there.
Still showing us sophisticated food provision long before electricity or refrigeration or motorways.
Yeah. Just grass, stone, water, and clever thinking.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it does make you stop and think, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, think about our own world, our massive water systems, our complex global supply chains. How much of that still relies on basic principles mastered centuries ago? Flow, gravity, managing resources, controlling distribution.
The fundamentals haven't changed that much.
The fundamentals endure. So what lessons can we maybe take from the simplicity and effectiveness of medieval engineering like this, especially when we're often obsessed with complexity today?
That's a provocative thought. What quiet systems are underpinning our lives?
Exactly. What are we taking for granted?
It definitely encourages you to reflect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How often these invisible systems are the real foundation for the big, showy achievements. Maybe we should all look a bit closer at the world around us.
You never know what quiet ingenuity you might find.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.